word ballet conjures images of dead-eyed aristocrats
Bravo.
peering through tiny binoculars at neurotic gymnasts.
What?
But behind the velvet curtain lies a sinister world of hard drugs, poison attacks, and cannibal scientists. From vaginal magic shows to Prince Philip's mistress, welcome to the dark side of the dance. Welcome back to The Upshot. My name is Jack. Zach is here, as ever.
Hi, Jack.
Bringing us his vaginal magic show.
I've been practicing all week.
It's a very ominous thing to drop into a podcast intro, but
I know, when I read that, I was so confused.
allow us to explain later on in the episode. And that voice you're hearing is our guest, Erica North. Welcome.
Hello.
Erica is an influencer marketing extraordinaire,
Yes.
sometimes contortionist,
Former contortionist.
Arsenal
and another-
fan.
Yeah.
And Erica messaged us suggesting an episode on ballet.
I did.
Tis the season.
Yeah.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. There's a loose connection there. So
What's
I
the
thought-
deal? Is the Nutcracker just a Christmas thing?
Yeah, I think I don't know why, a lot of people love going to the Nutcracker and going to the ballet around Christmas. It's really strange.
Have you
I don't
been?
Understand. I've been to see it once and it was really incredible. I think I went in Las Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Las
What a place
Vegas,
to do it.
Nutcracker
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Las Vegas. Is it like a Vegas-themed Nutcracker? That would be.
It was
I think
a
I'd go and see
traditional
that.
one. It was a traditional one, but I could imagine Vegas pulling out some sort of Nutcracker version of one of their strip clubs.
Britney's there. Magic show
Loads,
next door.
loads of grannies on slot machines in
Yeah.
the back of the stage.
Shares in there.
Yeah. Anyway, Erica, you suggested this, and let
did.
that be a lesson to other listeners. If you've got an exotic idea for an episode, it felt fitting. Is ballet? Is it sport?
I think this is a question we're here to answer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's borderline.
It's definitely very athletic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the athleticism of it makes it sporty, but I guess it's not competition, is it?
But I mean, I guess if breakdancing and what's her name from Australia, if that can be considered a
Yeah.
sport,
Ray-
why not
Reagan.
ballet? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
How does that work? There are just judges. I guess ballet doesn't.
Yeah, they do have ballet competitions. Like there are those circuits, especially in the US, because they love dance competitions there.
Yeah, well, we've probably already shown our knowledge of ballet as an art form is not that extensive. I speak for myself and Zach, I can't speak for you, Erica. You know, but we mentioned that you're a sometime contortionist.
Yeah, I dabbled in ballet when I was like 2 years old, 4 years old.
2-year-olds do ballet.
Yeah, you get put in those like toddler ballet classes. That's like
Liz, our
Like a
producer, is
small
nodding.
tutu.
yeah, that's how like mums just pulling their children off for a couple of hours, you know.
Sounds great. Get my son into that. Liz, our producer, you used to do a bit of ballet, didn't you?
Yeah, I did ballet up until I was like almost a teenager. But that's the point where you either have to get good and serious or you give it up. And I was not prepared to get good and serious.
Were you doing it at 2?
Yeah, well, I think I started when I was 3. So yes,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Just look at my son, he's 1. I just think,
You're not doing all the complex moves at 2. I can't
well,
clarify
he
that.
better be,
enough.
otherwise no dinner for him. Right, well, should we kick off and just
Let's get
allow me to take us back to the beginnings of this noble sport in Renaissance Italy. So ballet began in around 1500 in Renaissance Italy, and at that point it was performed almost entirely by men. A lot of it was a sort of court performance. The outfits were quite different, not the sort of tutus and pumps that we see today. But it became really big when Louis XIV brought it to France in the 1640s.
Yeah, I think it was his wife or
Oh,
his mom.
did she get him into it?
She was a Medici.
Oh, right.
And so she, I think was his mum, and she brought it over and then taught him how to do it. And he loved all the dancers and everything.
Yeah.
So that's how he got into it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I was reading about it, they were saying that, some people believed that he was using it as a propaganda tool. Some people thought it was like a distraction for his noble rivals, that he'd get them really into like the etiquette of ballet so they wouldn't challenge his authority. But then it's pretty clear.
That feels like
he just wanted to dance.
I think he was just a flamboyant
Yeah.
guy. Like, you read about it and he was putting on these insane ballets that one of them, I think the one you're talking about, the propaganda one, he literally did a ballet that lasted, I think, like 12 hours from sundown until sun up. And then the idea was that this ballet was happening, and then as the sun was rising, he then appeared.
And that's why he's called the Sun King.
That's why he's called the Sun King. And so he apparently could leap really high and it was supposed to signify to the French people that he was this new magic rise for France.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
It
love the
does seem
idea
like
of
he's really playing the long game, like introducing an entire new art form to the country in a bit
Distract
to
his
like
rivals.
distract them from like overthrowing him.
Yeah. It's just so weird. It's like, okay, you just want to dance. don't
Yeah,
you?
go on, admit it. It's okay to want to dance. You don't have to pretend it's a political tool. No, I'm doing it to distract my rivals.
Can you imagine being in that court though and just having to like be like, yes, good job again.
Hour
congrats on
9
that.
of the
Yeah.
12. Apparently he did 80 different like production performances.
Was this the equivalent of like, is it filibustering when politicians just like talk and talk and talk so
Yeah.
that you can't vote through something? Is he just like keeping on performing so that all of these like court people can't plot against him?
Yeah.
He was the longest serving sovereign in history, world history, 70 odd years. And to be fair, he did have the odd nefarious scheme. So are you familiar with the Man in the Iron Mask, that story? There's a movie of it as well.
Yeah, I think I saw the
So
film.
he's responsible for prisoning this man in an iron mask. Some say it was his illegitimate brother who he considered a rival. So he just banged him up in this prison with an iron mask over his face. Very cool.
That seems like it should
And
be
made
a
him watch ballet.
And pirouetted in front of him, dressed like a Greek god. Cheers. I can't
It's
see
like
it.
gonna be
I've got
like
an iron
that,
mask.
like Clockwork Orange with like his eyes
Yeah.
pinned open, this iron mask on.
Yeah, 2 holes in the mask.
Go watch the Nutcracker again and again.
Another good Louis XIV story, loosely related to his love of ballet. So apparently when Louis XIV died, his heart was mummified and kept and preserved in a lab. And then during the French Revolution, sort of 150 years later, it was looted by people as they sort of chased all these aristocrats out of the country. And it ended up in Britain in the Archbishop of York's house. And the Archbishop of York was hosting some friends, and among them was eccentric scientist William Buckland, who the Archbishop showed him the King's heart, being like, look at this. And William Buckland just grabbed it and ate it. 150-year-old mummified heart.
Why?
It's a bit like coffee, I guess.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. Well, it's just like dust.
It's like in the Victorian times they discovered a frozen woolly mammoth, and it was like they'd never seen a woolly mammoth before. It was like, this thing is incredible. They like brought it over and just ate it.
Actually, the Victorians used to eat a lot of mummies, didn't they?
Really?
Mummies?
Yeah.
What,
Wasn't
Egyptian
this-
mummies?
It used to be like a medicine for them.
Oh,
So they'd go
right.
to Egypt and they'd get these mummies, and then they'd like ground them up, or I don't know.
Yeah, because it must just be like sort of like flaky, maybe phyllo pastry with the closest texture for the heart. I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Because it'd be quite sort of. Or do you think it's chewy? Not after 100 years.
Maybe it's like uni.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
It's almost a little bit like how babies, like when they're trying to understand the world, they'll just put everything in their mouth. Like that. What is this? Oh, we just
actually,
need to eat it.
That's not a bad description of William Buckland, because so apparently he was so obsessed with strange food that he vowed to eat a piece of every single creature from the animal kingdom, and he regularly had parties where guests were served mice on toast, and he once hosted a porpoise, puppy, and panther evening. All of them on the menu.
this is not doing good things for the perception of British cuisine.
That's about as good as it got, to be honest.
As an American, it is not perceived well already, and this
Yeah.
is not going to help.
I think the heart of the longest-serving sovereign ever, that's a delicacy, but mice on toast.
That's stupid. Yeah. What was the craziest thing he ever ate then?
What, besides the heart of a monarch?
Yeah.
It's giving you
Yeah,
about
besides
5, Erica. Porpoise, puppy, and panther in one evening.
Or was there
I guess
anything
panther,
weird?
that
Did he
is
eat anything
quite
weird?
crazy.
Though?
I actually, I mean, puppy on its own is a pretty.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
what part of the puppy? You know.
all of it, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Actually reminds me of my friend Jess had a game that she played with her friends where they were trying to lick the oldest thing that they could. So like they're like every time that they visit like an ancient monument or something, they'd lick it. And I was with her in Berlin one time. We went to the Pergamon Museum where they've got the old gates to Persepolis in there. It's like incredible. Like you walk through and it's like you're walking into this like ancient city. And Jess just goes up to it and it's just like.
Anyway, so actually under Louis XIV, it's just men performing in the ballet, and it's just in court. It's still a bit more like the Renaissance Italy, Medici style. And then women start to join in the 18th century. at which point the pervy men of Paris basically see a sinister opportunity. And it's said that the Paris Opera Ballet turns it into a giant brothel. So they have this room called the Foyer de la Danse, where rich men paid to socialise with the dancers. And yeah, it sort of escalated from there and got very, very seedy. At which point it kind of declines in France in popularity. But at that exact moment, in the sort of early to mid 19th century, it's getting big further east.
It certainly is. So probably the most famous, the most revered ballet house is the Bolshoi Company, which is based in Moscow. And the history of the Bolshoi is absolutely littered with like poisonings, murders, all kinds of scandals. So its origins were actually in 1773, when a dance school was opened at an orphanage in Moscow. Sort of, I'm picturing it a bit like a Victorian workhouse, but with more pirouettes. And by 1776, the creme de la creme of the dancing orphans were recruited to form a new dance company in Moscow. And so it was founded by this Russian prince, along with an eccentric English tightrope walker and magician called Michael Maddox. It was a different time.
Yeah, well, you say that, but Erica, you were a contortionist.
Yeah, I was a contortionist.
Similar category.
I did circus stuff.
So he came from a famed line of tightrope walkers. Apparently, his dad was a famous one too. But as a baby, him and his dad were on their way to Ireland to maybe do a tightrope performance or something. They were on board a ship and it crashed in the Irish Sea. It killed his dad, but he was rescued and ended up being raised by his uncle, whose job title was listed as Trumpeter of Bristol.
So he plays the trumpet.
I don't know. I'm imagining he's sort of like the guy with his, like the town, not the town crier, but with his bugle, like calling the townsfolk to the main square to whatever they did.
What
to
year
them.
are we in?
This is 17. Oh, it must be early 1730s or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
That sort of.
Yeah,
that sort of
that would be a valid job title back then.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So he takes up the family business of tightrope walking and ends up like traveling around the country, traveling around Europe, and ends up in Moscow, where he ends up being loaned the money to open a theatre there. So apparently there were a few people who were sort of vying for some state money to open a theatre, but his two main rivals died of bubonic plague. So so it was a walkover in the end. Easy. So it was a weird time in Russia. So the year that the dance school
When
there was a lot of plague about.
It
was all weird in Russia mostly. But the same year that the dance school opened, there was an uprising. They tried to topple the Tsar, or was it Catherine? I think it was Catherine the Great who was in charge then. But the leader of the rebellion was caught and brought to Moscow from Kazakhstan in a cage all the way, and then dismembered in the middle of the main square. So just to give you a sense of like what the era was like.
What the political climate is.
It's important
Setting
before we
the
talk
stage.
ballet.
So the theatre opened, but right from the start it was beset by problems. So the whole plan was that it would attract these wealthy noblemen as its audience. But what they didn't factor in is the fact that all of these noblemen had serfs, these like indentured labourers on their land, who apparently they'd just get them to perform for them, do like singing and dancing.
Like a court gesture.
Like 12 hours in the field, tilling the soil, and then you've got to fucking dance for them as well.
Yeah, it was a different time. And the theatre ended up burning down in 1780 and then again in 1805. After the first fire, the lead dancer of the company died of pneumonia because he'd been out all night trying to douse the flames.
God. It's a brutal world.
It was. But yeah, it ended up being rebuilt and named the Bolshoi Theatre as it is now. So the Bolshoi Theatre over the years developed a bit of a rivalry with the St. Petersburg Theatre, a rival ballet company there. And apparently like audience members were big fans of like the company, but also specific dancers. So they had these things called claques, which were groups of like professional applauders and audience members who called claqueurs. So they had specific roles. So some of them would be responsible for laughing, others would be crying, others just like clapping, basically getting the audience hyped up, which you kind of like, if you've got a professional laugher, clapper, like who in the audience isn't a genuine...
It's a bit like when you go to a live taping, you know, and they'll hold up the signs
Yeah,
and say,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
laugh.
Applause. Yeah.
But these guys apparently they'd have to know the performance inside out, so they'd know exactly what was
When
going to
to
happen,
laugh.
when to laugh.
I think
when
it
to...
still exists. I might be wrong.
Oh, really?
But I think it might still exist
There's a
as a
few.
practice.
Is it?
Yeah.
But apparently, I think there were actual genuine audience members who were big fans of
Yeah.
certain dancers. So anyway, there was this big rivalry between the two companies. So when the St. Petersburg ballerina Elena Andronova was cast in the lead role at the Bolshoi Ballet, she knew that there'd be some trouble. So in anticipation of this, she decided to book out all the front seats and got her fans to come from St. Petersburg to support her. But a super fan of her rival Bolshoi ballerina, who was passed over for this lead role, ended up paying like a local tradesman to go into the performance and throw a dead cat at her during the applause at the end.
Right, just bring a dead cat in.
I did not imagine that ballet and dead random
Yeah.
animals would have so much crossover.
Yeah.
Good point.
And then she ate it.
William Buckland popped up. Who's just got a dead cat to hand?
Yeah, and
Probably
also
don't wanna know
how
too
are
much.
you? Yeah, how has he snuck that in as well? He's just sitting
That's
there
security
with
back
it,
then.
like,
Yeah.
under
No
his coat
TSA
for
to
the
get
whole-
in his
Collar
way.
didn't set the metal detector off.
But yeah, so when he did this, apparently the whole cast like came back onto the stage. They were furious, threw the dead cat back into the crowd, and yeah, sort of, I don't know, it all kicked off. The guy ended up being arrested, possibly rightly so.
That's mental.
Yeah.
So what was it all because they hated the dancer because she was the rival?
Yeah, so she was from.
It's a bit like football fans.
Yeah, it is a bit. Yeah,
Well, like even like the Swifties, they'd probably chuck a dead animal at
Yeah, they probably would.
somebody.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, they're all quite sweet. I
They
think.
do it digitally. It wouldn't be as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we said, we're talking about a pretty eventful period of Russian history. So obviously 1917, there was the Russian Revolution. We're jumping forward a little bit here. But, you know, ballet continued through this era. So like we said, its origins were quite aristocratic. And actually after the revolution, Lenin decided that he wanted to destroy the Bolshoi theatre because he saw ballet as this like symbol of bourgeois decadence, and which, you know, you can see where he's coming from.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it is really popular, and he's talked out of it, and they decide instead to turn the Bolshoi into an instrument of ideological education. So
So
they
back to
start
propaganda.
yeah, exactly.
Once
So
again.
they start doing what they call socialist realist ballets. So, you know, all the love stories about royalty are out, and they're replaced by ballets about collective farming and hydroelectricity.
Sounds like it's back to serfs dancing again.
Basically, yeah. But apparently they'd have like bulldozers on stage.
Not tractors, I can imagine.
Yeah,
as well,
yeah. I should like a whole ballet about hydroelectricity.
Has everyone just got to sit through that? The clackers are just
Yeah,
cheering along.
yeah. So they like replaced the audiences, which, you know, was quite aristocratic up to that point, and claqueurs, and filled it up with workers and peasants who were like instructed very sternly when to clap. There's a pic of peasants watching a performance of. They have the music of Tchaikovsky, and apparently this ballet is celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Secret Police. It's like, hold on, you're the guys that took my dad to the gulag.
Just clap along.
Don't remember many pirouettes in that. Yeah.
I mean, you would be terrified actually during that time to not clap when
Yeah,
they tell you
yeah,
to clap.
yeah.
Quite a good metaphor just for the era.
Yeah, could you
Yeah.
imagine being like, oh my God, did I clap loud enough? Like, did I clap well enough? Are they going to come and snatch me tomorrow because they were displeased with how I clapped?
Apparently I couldn't find the clip. I was reading about it. There's a video of a ballet during like the Stalinist era where all of the party people are in the crowd, and everyone's just like, they don't stop clapping, they just clap, like, and everyone's like looking around really nervously because no one wants to be the first one to stop clapping.
Oh my god! Yeah, it's literally as you described.
Yeah, it would
Otherwise you've got a
literally be
stint
like
in
that.
Siberia coming up.
Just imagine somebody's at the front of the crowd, just like off stage slightly, just like
Yeah,
jotting down
yeah,
names. They're
yeah.
going,
Spotlight.
They're like that one in A25. I've got C, 72.
Yeah,
Add them
Off
to
he
the
goes.
list.
Actually, the director of the Bolshoi, a guy called Boris Guzman, did end up getting purged
Oh, really?
by Stalin.
What, for
So
not clapping enough? I guess it's his
no,
fault.
so they said that he'd written ideologically unsound scripts.
Right, could be anything.
Could be, yeah.
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 What didn't appreciate the hydroelectric?
Yeah. In your ballet, hydroelectricity production only rose by 23%.
Didn't do another one about the secret police.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, the secret police one, is it about the secret police as well?
It was to celebrate.
I guess it was
Like
celebrating their
show trials
dramatization of the trial of Bukhari.
Yeah, show how great they are.
Chekhov's confession.
Yeah. But yeah, amid all of that, there was still space for some macabre drama. So in 1928, two ballerinas fell in love with one of the stage painters. And, that's obviously a bit of an awkward situation. They work together, they're good friends. But rather than either fighting for him or coming to some sort of reasonable solution, they decided instead to make a suicide pact.
Naturally.
Which is, it's the obvious next step. So at the end of a performance, just as the curtain's about to fall, they tied themselves together with a silk scarf and threw themselves off the highest point of the stage. It's like 70 foot. So it was just as the lead character was about to die, and suddenly these two ballerinas
Oh my
just
God.
crashed onto the stage. And apparently, because it was sort of like the climactic scene of the ballet, the audience just thought it was part of the
show.
play, and
So
then
good.
the curtains just
It's quite
closed
sort of
and-
like poetic. It's horrible, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
quite
It's
like
It's
sort
kind
of
of beautiful
yeah.
in a weird way. I'm
It
like,
is.
wow, this is very captivating.
Yeah, like they tied together, falling from the and the timing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine you're in the audience and you're one of the clapper people, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, okay, yeah, is this good?
Got secret police
This is
watching
wow,
as well.
very impressive.
This didn't happen at
Love
the dress
visual
rehearsal.
effects. The stunts are great in this one.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Also, it kind of is an example of something I've been wondering about ballet, which is like, for everyone in it, it seems to be literally life and death, like the most important. Everyone's so intense. Whereas if you're not in that world, it's like you're just dancing. Why are you guys taking it so seriously?
And that's what everyone always talks about. They're like, it is my life. Like they always say, like a ballerina dies twice. It's like when they stop doing ballet, and then when they actually die for real,
And then-
because it's that tied to them.
And then when they're in the gulag,
Yeah,
digging in the snow with their cold hands.
But I read about this story, and apparently it actually went quite wrong because
Oh, really?
only one of them died instantly. The other one was still alive and had to go to the hospital.
Oh, really?
So it was
Shit.
like
You wanna go instantly.
screaming. So the audience was really, really confused then, because they were like, "Wait, is it part of the performance?
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Like, what has just happened here?" Because one of them didn't.
I thought you were going to say one of them didn't jump and the other one, like when you're diving off a high board and someone
I mean,
tricks you.
I honestly thought that was going to be the play there. When I heard
Yeah.
about this plan, I was like, surely one of them
Yeah.
was like tricking
Game
the
theory,
other.
isn't it?
But yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, it is.
Now the painter's mine.
just unravel it.
You have no choice.
God, that would be.
Look at what I've done for you.
Yeah, he's got to go out with them
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
You could probably make a good ballet about that as well, actually.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
Ballet about
A
ballets.
ballet about the Bolshoi. By the Bolshoi.
By us. Probably not as good.
We can send them the script. End up on a list.
But I think, like we were saying at the start, that is it a sport? Is it an art? And there kind of, I feel like there actually is this competitive element to it, but it's rather than being, against another team, it's between the ballerinas. Because they're obviously competing for these parts, and there's quite dark stories that we'll come on to later of how they try to sabotage each other. But throughout, like, the history of the Bolshoi, I came across various stories about ballerinas going to the show and finding broken glass in their pumps, or like
In their
needles
punches, yeah.
needles sewn into their costumes. There was one that, like, the lead ballerina went out to do her performance and realised that her costume had been sewn to the legs, so that I think, like, the tutu had been sewn to the legs, so, like, as soon as she tried to stretch, she couldn't.
And she's on stage.
She's on stage.
What do you
yeah.
do? walk off?
I think she just carried
just
on.
been
The show must go on, Jake.
Yeah.
Well, what can you do?
Yeah, it's a ruthless world.
Yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
seen Black Swan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about it, actually.
I know,
yeah.
I was wondering.
I was going to rewatch it. I didn't have a chance, but that's such a good film.
It is such a
Scary.
good film. Very scary.
Like that, I remember at the end of the film just being quite, like, scared.
Yeah, that is like peak ballerina.
The idea of it is that a ballerina, or the character, turns mad through their perfectionism, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like gets in their head that everybody is out to get them.
Yeah, I thought it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just such a sinister world.
Yeah.
It is sinister, and in fact, the biggest scandal of all at the Bolshoi came just a decade ago. You might think it would be, some czarist repression or gulag-centric purge, but in 2013, a truly hideous episode took place. So at this point, the artistic director was a guy called Sergei Filin, and the Bolshoi was already kind of in quite a toxic place. So Sergei's predecessor had quit after erotic photos of him were leaked online. And at the time, the whole theatre was just riven by infighting, rumours of bribery to get top parts, rumours of sexual favours for parts. It was all like sounding very sordid. One dancer later branded that era a giant brothel. So, there was
Back to the Parisian.
yeah,
era.
again, comes full circle. So the backdrop was bad. One day, Filin, this artistic director, he was returning to his flat in Moscow. It was a snowy evening in January. And as he got his key into the door of his building, someone called his name, and he turned round, saw a masked man who threw a jar of sulfuric acid in his face. Obviously, he was in complete agony. He couldn't see. I've read his account of the incident. It is horrifying, so scary and just heartbreaking because he's crawling around. There's no one around. He's yelling for help. Eventually, he manages to kind of crawl and feel his way to this security hut where they apparently the security guard like screams when he sees him. It's just like a horrifying sight. It's awful. He loses 75% of his sight, so blind in one eye, half the sight in the other. And immediately everyone's asking, like, what is going on? It's a sensation in Russia and beyond, the hunt for the culprit. And within 6 weeks, the Russian police have found a man, Yuri Zarutsky, who has confessed to the attack. But Yuri reveals that he was actually doing it on the orders of someone else. None other than Bolshoi dancer Pavel Dmitrichenko, who he's a funny looking fella. I've got a picture of him here. We're looking at.
He looks like he would be a Tim Burton character.
Yeah, because he's got
exactly like
yes,
He looks like he's done.
because of the darkness around the eyes.
Yeah,
I should say
so deep
He looks like he's done a stint in the Gulag himself.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that photo is taken after sort of like 2 months in Russian custody. So I don't know if
God.
he looked like that before.
Yeah.
Some people would call that heroin chic, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Like,
they would. Yeah, Tim Burton heroin.
yeah,
chic.
that like sort of like
He's ready for the runway.
yeah. But like around his eyes, it is sort of like darkened. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
rough.
Roisin, our regular guest. That's the kind of guy she fancies. She always says, I want them to look on the verge of death.
Oh God, like
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet. But
Yeah,
worse.
but that's the look. You just need a man who spent some time in Russian custody.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dmitrichenko, everyone's wondering, like, why would he have done this? And it turns out that he was angry that Sergei Filin, the victim, had chosen another dancer rather than his girlfriend to play a role in, I think it was Swan Lake. It was one of the big ones.
probably.
And so, naturally, the thing you do is to find a local tough guy to throw acid in his face.
Yeah. Was his girlfriend impressed by his dedication to her career? Or?
Jeez.
I don't think she stayed with him because I read that he married someone else while in prison. So.
Oh, well. I was about to say, ladies never settle. Yeah. This is.
So he married. So he must have. Did they meet while he was in prison for?
Yeah, I think it's like the sort of
orchestrating an acid attack on somebody who
I
wronged
mean-
his
I
ex-girlfriend.
mean,
Yeah,
you
it's
know how it goes. There's those crazy women
Yeah.
that just love
Yeah,
criminals.
Yeah,
They're, like,
serial killers
falling in love.
get married quite a lot in
Yeah,
prison.
they do.
He's not a serial killer. So his defense is that he just told this guy to beat him up. And this guy and another accomplice drove to the guy's house and threw acid in his face. It's crazy. He also, Dmitrichenko claims that he only did it to protest the unjust allocation of pay at the Bolshoi, which feels like a matter for the trade union.
Yeah.
Not-
Feels like something Lenin could get behind.
yeah, true. Yeah, it was go back to the old spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely crazy.
I
And
mean, this-
awful for villain, obviously. It's like
This is a bit like Tonya Harding and
yeah, and the Hamraoui
And
thing,
yes,
episode we talked about. It's like
exactly, yeah.
rivals, and just like once again these really intense environments where somehow beating someone to a part in a ballet is worth like destroying someone's life over.
What is it with these people? There's such a thing of like, I'm just going to absolutely physically destroy this person that I perceive to have done wrong.
I think it's because they're so obsessed with this world that there's nothing outside that, you know, being wronged in that world is worthy of like blinding somebody.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of not worse than killing them, but like it's a particularly like brutal. It is Russia.
Was he a ballerina as well?
Yeah, who?
Okay.
Pavel Dmitrichenko, the culprit.
Yeah, you know his name really
Oh yeah,
well.
I've been practicing that pronunciation. Yeah, no, he was a dancer too, and his girlfriend's a dancer. It's that's the world, isn't it? They're all like, everyone's a dancer. That's their lives.
I mean, that is a great act of love from him, though.
Oh right, are you?
Yeah, I think like, wow, look at that. He loves her so much. He's willing.
So you're saying you would appreciate someone doing that for you?
You know, some guys won't even bring you flowers, and here this guy is getting acid
in his boss's face.
Yeah, exactly. A new standard has been set in Russia.
To be fair, you're actually get a guy who can do it all.
Yeah.
You're actually not the only one who kind of appreciates it. So Philin, the victim, he returns to work 9 months later, and the Bolshoi, they let him work there for a while, and then they just don't renew his contract. They say he fell out of favour with the new general director, Vladimir Ulin.
That will happen.
That will happen when you only have 25% eyesight.
And then as for Pavel, who confessed to ordering the hit, even though he denied he wanted acid, he is released after just 3 years for good behaviour. And soon after that, he's granted a building pass for the Bolshoi and invited to join morning practice routines. And then the new general director, the same one who fired the victim, invites him to audition again. And not long after that, he's elected chairman of the Bolshoi Theatre Trade Union, which I think is his current role.
I mean, would you vote against it?
Yeah.
Honestly.
He's a tough negotiator.
He doesn't.
Well, even
He doesn't deal well with rejection, so.
I find that mental. Like, the victim's just forced out, and I guess a lot of people didn't like Philin. I just find it mental. I think he does have some like very tenuous role related to the Bolshoi now, which means him and Pavel presumably bump into each other in the fucking corridors.
It is just a mad place. Like I think we've said this before, that whenever you come across those videos on social media of like a mental thing happening, just like
Russia.
a bear fighting people, or just like, I don't know, an insane car crash or something like that, they're always in Russia.
It's either Russia or Florida.
Yeah,
Russia, Florida,
that's so weird
yeah.
because yesterday we were saying Florida is hot Russia.
Yeah, actually.
Because someone described Brazil as hot Russia, and then we were saying yesterday, I actually think it's Florida.
It's definitely Florida.
Yeah.
Florida is mental. That's where, instead of bears, it's crocodiles. Like,
But there is a lot in common. Meanwhile, actually, I was going to mention the Bolshoi acid attack is not the only horrible incident there. So there was another story about a dancer who, she went missing, and the working theory is that her manager killed her, burned her body in acid, and then threw the remains down a well. Which again is just, I mean, fucking brutal and horrible. But like,
and poisoning the water system.
worst of all. Yeah. Also, something about throwing someone down a well, it's quite medieval as well,
I was
isn't
going to
it?
say, it's just like, okay.
But if the body's been dissolved in acid, why do you need to throw it in
Apparently
the well?
it's
Do you
still
just throw
bones.
the acid?
Apparently bones are still quite hard to, apparently.
I've heard.
From your
Yeah,
experience.
when I've Googled it. And we probably should mention that last month, another ballet dancer, Vladimir Shkliarov, who was a big critic of the war in Ukraine, he fell from a balcony and died, which is not often the way in Russia at the moment. Political assassinations often involve falling from height.
I don't think we should say it's an assassination. It's definitely just a very
Yeah,
strange
coincidence,
occurrence.
I saw the Russian press is saying that he was on like strong painkillers, as if he like wandered off the balcony.
mean, this
We're going to end up on Putin's list.
Yeah,
This is a man
Napoleon
who's
Studio.
made his entire career out of being good at balancing. And
Yeah.
he's now fallen off a balcony.
Actually, that's so true. Yeah.
It's suspicious.
One too many ibuprofen.
Yeah.
We've
They
all been
definitely
there.
killed that guy. But yeah, it's mental. Like quite a lot of just like horrible stories.
Yeah.
But
Unsurprisingly, in that terrifying environment, drug use is pretty rife. So there's a story from 1977. The Nutcracker was adapted for cinema, and it starred this American ballerina called Gelsey Kirkland, and she says that she was introduced before this to cocaine by her boyfriend, and by the time they were filming it, she was absolutely smashing it. So every day she was like smuggling cocaine onto set in her ballet shoes, and she later became so dependent on it that she had a contract where it was written into her contract that she would only work if she was supplied cocaine on a daily basis.
I cannot imagine that a ballerina would like have that in their contract
Yeah.
as well, especially because they try and like put on such an image of just being like
Purity.
goodwill,
Yeah.
very pure people.
Also, I love how
Yeah.
she started by smuggling it in her ballet pumps, and by the end, she's just like, put it in the fucking
Yeah.
contract. Where's my gear?
Yeah.
Is that because it's painful as well? It's like, isn't it like
It's so
standing on
nice.
your toes?
Yeah.
Not that I can do it, but isn't that like coke would probably help that?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah.
I think it's probably more for the to keep up all your energy and everything as
Yeah.
well for like the endless hours. And
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah.
She also, at one point, was injecting herself with pregnant cow's urine because apparently it was some kind of diet aid. It would like help you lose weight.
Specifically pregnant cows.
Yeah, when I saw this, I thought that is the most mental thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard of anyone trying.
Injecting
as a diet.
any urine.
I
Yeah.
think that goes beyond the placenta.
Yeah.
Like, that really
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you'd rather eat a mummified heart than to inject urine.
Yeah,
from
that's
pregnant
what I was
cows.
going to say. What would you rather?
Yeah, would Willie Buxton do
Surely
it?
that's not good for you.
Yeah,
Urine into your bloodstream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's how you get
mouse on
sepsis.
toast. Mouse on toast sounds quite nice also.
With a bit of sauce, you wouldn't really know.
There are like people nowadays, not me, I can clarify, but like I had an old colleague who was kind of part of this movement that like to sort of drop urine into their eyeballs and
Really?
ingest it and stuff like that because apparently it's got properties that help you be stronger.
Human urine or pregnant cow?
I think their budget only stretched to human urine.
Right. Your own.
They're-
Yeah, self-medicate.
Yeah, I mean,
In your eyeball. I mean, I'd rather that than inject it, but it's kind of the same thing.
because it helps you see clearer apparently after a
I
while.
think
Oh,
I'm happy with my
God.
clarity.
Yeah.
That's mental.
that sounds very Victorian.
Yeah.
Like that really does.
As I said, it wasn't me, it was a colleague.
A
I, for
former
one,
colleague,
believe
yeah.
someone who isn't me.
So who's going to try it?
Yeah. So
Eyeball
that
or
could be the
inject?
sort of spin-off series that was just us doing weird experimental.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying all the things that come up in
things,
these
yeah,
stories.
yeah.
It's for research.
Yeah.
That's fucking mental. The other like sort of evidence we have of drug use in the ballet is Sergei Polunin. You know him? He's considered the bad boy of the ballet. He was in the Royal Ballet in London, but he quit amid rumours of hard partying. I mean, it's nothing mental. He was doing coke
Did
before
you see his
shows.
tweets?
Yeah, because didn't he say?
He used to tweet about like wanting drugs all the time, and like apparently he was just smashing MD a bunch, and he said it was so fun because he could just tweet whatever and it would end up in the news the next day.
So I was working for the Evening Standard when he was doing that, and I doorstepped him. So because he tweeted, "Does anybody sell heroin? Need to bring my mood up."
Jack thought I do.
Knock knock.
I love that. That's like somebody that definitely probably has not done heroin before.
That'll
They're like,
enhance my mood and get me buzzed for the show. But I doorstepped him, and he gave me some quotes. He was kind of helpful. I found the story of it, and there's nothing particularly interesting unless you care about the machinations of the Royal Ballet. But I don't know, was he doing it just like to wind people up, or?
yeah, I think he was. He was just doing it for attention. Yeah.
It worked because in 2017 he was named GQ's Creative Maverick of the Year, which didn't age that well because around that time he got a tattoo of Vladimir Putin on his chest. And then in 2021 he got a lot of pressure about it and he said, okay, I'm going to remove it. And then after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Sergei actually unveiled 2 more Putin tattoos. So he's now got one on his chest and one on each shoulder.
All right, so I've got a story that's slightly less depressing for you. So the Nutcracker, it has a lot of kids that perform in the shows, and that has led to some quite slapstick moments down the years, moving on from Putin tattoos. So there was a show at the Boston Opera House a few years ago when a kid pissed themselves on stage, and apparently then like the ballerina came on to do one of their big bits and slipped on the puddle of piss.
That's actually quite a nice
That's it, yeah.
palate cleanser after
Yeah.
the last discussion.
To be fair, there's a lot of urine in this
Yeah.
all of a sudden throughout all these stories.
Yeah, it's that kind of podcast. There was another story that a kid one time vomited everywhere backstage, and it set off a bout of norovirus that took out 200 people in the 200 dancers and backstage staff.
And the show still went on.
Yeah,
show
it
still went on.
must, as it must.
Yeah.
Zach, I was just struggling for enthusiasm for that story. You just want more pregnant cows.
Yeah,
doing it.
it's gonna get back to that sort of thing. Actually, while we're on the subject of kids, Erica, you told us that Rio Ferdinand was a ballet dancer.
Yeah, I looked up athletes, obviously, that have done ballet, because it used to be a big news story in the States for a while that all these like American football players were taking up ballet. And then I looked up to see if any footballers over here had done it. Turns out he actually had a contract with one of the ballet academies here, and he basically quit ballet in order to do football.
Yeah, he got like a scholarship to the Royal Ballet
Yeah.
School.
So he'd been doing it for a long time, I guess, long enough.
Yeah,
like
I
since
guess
he
so.
was really young.
Why
yeah.
did athletes do it for like core strength, flexibility,
Just because they like
access
it.
to cow's urine?
For Rio Ferdinand credits doing ballet with his delicate footwork.
Yeah, because for a defender, he's quite skillful technically.
Yeah.
God, that's a very. I mean, he made the right choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
I think the classic thing that seems to come up for all of them, which is quite sad, is they will choose football or choose something else over ballet just because of the money.
Yeah,
And that's what he said.
I guess
as well.
because of the like competitive nature between different ballet dancers, that you could end up being cast as like the lead role in Swan Lake, or you're a tree.
Yeah,
yeah.
you want the sugar plum fairies. Yeah.
Or you're like poisoned by your supposed friend.
Yeah. You end up in a suicide pact.
I don't think we're really selling it as a career choice.
Yeah. Actually, Rio wasn't the only one who turned his supple ballet body to other means. Are you familiar with Sticky Vicky?
No, who's Sticky Vicky?
Well, let me tell you. So Sticky Vicky was a Spanish ballet dancer and illusionist who performed in Benidorm for 50 years. So Vicky, she trained as a classical ballet dancer and worked as one for 15 years. And she was sort of travelling around Spain, ended up going on tour to Sicily, where she ended up getting pregnant by a Sicilian mobster. And at this time, it was sort of mafia tradition that a child would be raised by the family and that the mother would then give up work. So Sticky Vicky was having none of this, and she fled to Barcelona with the baby. And the time that she moved there, it coincided with the fall of the Franco dictatorship. We had a real historical tour.
Yeah, we have. We really have.
And at this time, audiences in Barcelona started wanting a bit more sort of racy content. And a magician friend of Vicky's convinced her to start doing a performance that she dubbed a vaginal magic show. So basically, the concept was that she would strip and then remove an increasingly set of weird objects from her vagina. So she apparently trained herself using handkerchiefs, but by the time the show was on stage, her performance included objects from ping pong balls, eggs, sausages, razor blades, light bulbs, and machetes.
Machetes. What's next? A dead cat.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her, to be
Complete the
honest.
sequence.
You know, what year was this? She would rake up on OnlyFans now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't she?
Didn't she? Yeah. Didn't she die quite recently?
She was doing performances until 2015.
Why
No,
didn't she
wait,
go
When she was 72.
She was 72. Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's so good.
I'm sorry, no way are you fitting a machete in there. Like, that is some illusory
Give me a
stuff.
mini machete.
No, it's not
Machetes come
happening.
in various sizes.
I don't know. She definitely did razor blades. Maybe the machete, there was some sort of like optical illusion.
Must
I don't know.
100%.
I'm not sure.
But it could also. So
She's
I.
also an illusionist, right? Yeah.
She was an illusionist,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's magic. Yeah. So yeah. Don't question that.
but anyway, this show is a massive hit, and she ends up moving to Benidorm, where the British tourists lapped it up.
Yeah.
She was a
She's like an institution.
huge hit.
there,
Yeah. She's a Benidorm legend. So at her peak, she was performing 6 nights a week doing the show.
Did you make quite your money doing that?
I guess if you're doing it 6 nights a
I'm
week. I
guessing
don't know.
better than
That's-
as a ballerina.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on. What is the ballet connection again?
She was
ballet
working.
dancer.
She was a ballet
It's a
dancer
ballet
for
story.
yeah.
Until she got pregnant by the mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
didn't Zach? I swear you said that her daughter has now taken.
Yeah,
over.
her daughter's taken on the show.
And is that the daughter who's the daughter of the mobster? quite possibly.
No, it was a son she had by the mobster. There's not much
What's he
known
up
about
to?
the son.
Yeah. I think there's a reason there's
But
not
apparently
much about it.
the daughter, she from the age of 14, she was going and watching her mum doing these shows.
I
quite
kind of think you've
weird.
got to just embrace it. haven't
Yeah. Well, she fully has. She's the
doing
new,
it.
she's the new Sticky Vicky.
you? Same name.
Yeah, there was actually the original Sticky Vicky had a court case in 2001 against another performer who'd taken her name and was doing the same show, and she took her to court and sued her and won, I think.
Justice.
And the other performer had to change her name to Sexy Barbara.
I mean, try harder
Hi,
than that.
Barbara. Yeah.
Can't you be like,
Also, Sticky Vicky isn't even necessarily that
Yeah,
great of a name.
exactly.
Like, surely you could have a bit of originality. Like, still
Sexy
the act.
Bexy? Yeah, that's already better than Sexy Barbara.
I mean, Sticky Vicky worked for her.
Yeah.
So.
But maybe she's trying to
Sticky Vicky's
steal people who think they're getting the real Sticky Vicky.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Except no imitations.
There's only one.
No, that's two.
She always insisted that the show was not pornographic. She said, "To do what I do, you must have a lot of delicacy. It's necessary to give it a touch of elegance."
That'll be from the ballet.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
where the ballet comes in. Yeah.
That's
That
why this is a ballet
purity,
still.
yeah.
I do have mad respect for someone who can actually, like, first of all, do all that stuff and then also turn it into a career.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like 50 years she was doing that show.
I mean, that's a
Would that
long
do well on OnlyFans?
To be fair, that has a longer longevity than as a ballerina, so actually credit
Yeah.
to her.
Yeah.
found a
She
way-
played the long game.
Yeah, she really did. Yeah, and now her daughter is doing it, so
Yeah.
it's a family business.
And there's fewer rivals.
Yeah, I guess. At what point can you say like, "Oh, this has been in our family for three
Generations.
generations"?
Or like the tightrope guy.
Yeah, there's a guy with a tightrope.
Yeah,
now
her mother's
Sticky
mother
Vicky.
handed it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how you learn.
Yeah, like this was your grandmother's ping pong ball. Like,
Treasure it.
yeah, treasure it. Go forth and get on stage. Make mummy and grandmummy proud.
Right, finally, guys, Sticky Vicky is not the only performer who captivated Brits abroad. So there was a Russian ballerina called Galina Ulanova, who was very, very famous in sort of the middle of the 20th century. And it is rumoured that she had an affair with none other than Prince Philip, husband of the Queen, the late Prince Philip. I should admit, my main source for this is The Crown, the Netflix series.
Yeah, it was a big thing on the ground.
Yeah, it was. So the second season basically begins with Philip's about to embark on this 5-month tour aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia, and the Queen she's hiding a gift in his briefcase, and while she's doing that, she stumbles upon a photo of a beautiful ballerina.
Was this the like 1940s equivalent of having nudes?
Yeah, you like
Yeah.
Checking the DMs.
Yeah.
And someone-
That's all he's got for five
Yeah.
months on the yacht.
I'm driving
wank
crazy.
bank.
Yeah.
So actually, in this episode of The Crown, she doesn't actually confront Philip about the photograph, but later on in the episode, she attends Ulanova's performance in Giselle, this ballet, and there's like this moment where the Queen and Ulanova, they sort of knowingly eye each other as if they're like Philip's two love rivals. And then in a subsequent series, the Queen does finally call him out on his passion for ballerinas.
Charles and Diana seem to be getting on again.
Hallelujah.
Apparently she surprised him with a dance last night at the Opera House.
Eh?
Full of high kicks and spins.
Why did you never do that for me?
Dance on your birthday?
Yes. Like Salome.
Because, if memory serves, you had your own ballerinas for that.
You want to have that? You know that
Yeah.
you know that meme where it's like a rap battle and all the kids are like,
Gangster. She has fucking owned him there.
Yeah.
I should say that it's possibly completely fictional that he had this affair with this ballerina. Apparently,
Yeah.
Prince Philip wanted to sue Netflix over the storyline, but supposedly it is based on an actual rumoured affair.
Yeah, so this specific ballerina, the one that they mentioned in The Crown, wasn't even like, I think they didn't even technically cross paths. So like, and I think she was like, this happened 5 years later on than when they said that she was even in London, and she was so busy it just isn't even remotely possible it was that ballerina. But it is sort of referencing another dancer that Philip did apparently go to dinner with, and they did exchange letters. And they went to dinner, and then it was and then it was quite mental because like the palace actually issued a statement saying that they had not had an affair, and she was always really angry about that because she was like, you basically made it real by issuing a statement. And she said it was just incredibly frustrating, and she hated the palace and hated him for that.
Quite mad. Like, it was 1948. Like, for them to release a statement being like, the prince isn't having an affair.
Yeah.
This is Patricia Kirkwood. We're looking at her now. She's quite good looking.
Yeah, she's quite good.
You know, sometimes you like, I was saying this before we came on.
Patricia Kirkwood is definitely a less sexy name than Galina Romanova.
You can see why they made her a Russian ballerina. I think Patricia Kirkwood was sort of like almost like a pop star dancer.
Okay.
But to be fair to Patricia, quite often when you look at people from that era, particularly in Britain, they're like, everyone's got sort of like awful teeth, and you're like, I don't really understand how that person was a pin-up, but it's
pre-plastic surgery, so you actually had to be good looking.
She's a bona fide hottie.
Yeah.
Congrats. Sure, her relatives will be glad.
Yeah, if you're listening.
The Kirkwood estate. There's actually also a scene in The Crown where Prince Philip's a member of this like bawdy club called the Thursday Club, where they like basically all get drunk and like go womanizing. But he's off on his like Royal Navy tour, but they read out a letter from the guy who's on his tour with him about like all the like sort of shagging he's getting up to. I've got a clip of it. Oh, are we talking about ballet?
This episode has just descended into just tarring Prince Philip.
His Royal Highness.
Philip, as you all know, is a work-hard, play-hard man who would never stand in the way of a bit of fun. And in New Guinea, as it turns out, there's no such thing as infidelity. Men are expected to indulge. By the end of this tour, I think we will be able to make a qualitative assessment about where the finest women in the world come from. I have shared these secrets with you in good faith. The contents must, like all disclosures of the Thursday Club, remain secret. 90% of the officers on board are married and would kill me if they knew what I was writing. Strict non-disclosure policies apply. What happens on tour stays on tour.
Some awful blokes in that club.
He clearly hadn't been to Benidorm yet.
Then I met Sticky Vicky.
And it all changed.
So yeah, I don't know what the ballet connection of that last bit is. That comes in the same episode as he's got that picture of the ballerina. So it's a gateway drug. Clearly.
This episode's just turned into a promo for the new series of The Crown.
I enjoyed it. I mean, that's the story of ballet.
Yeah, that's the story of ballet.
Obviously.
Other honourable mentions, I would say, are the photos of Arnold Schwarzenegger when he did ballet.
Oh, yeah?
What, during his bodybuilding?
Yeah, to help him pose. There's some great photos. They're very, very funny. I think Muhammad Ali as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Again, for kind of like footwork as well. All right, well, I mean, I guess one thing left to do, pass verdict on ballet as... First of all,
it a sport?
I think it's a sport, but is it a sordid sport that ranks alongside sort of snooker and football? I'd say it's more sinister.
Yeah,
I think
sinister.
it's very sinister. I honestly wonder why anyone goes into it.
Yeah, would you want a friend or relative to go and work at the Bolshoi?
No,
Absolutely not.
they're not coming back.
Yeah, I'm
They're-
scared to even go and watch.
Considering there's been like multiple murders in the past decade, it's just a very sinister, quite toxic world.
And that should get you in the Christmas spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. So go
Merry
and see the
fucking
Nutcracker.
Christmas.
Enjoy the Nutcracker this year. When your grandma drags you to it, you can tell her, "Granny, did you know?"
This is nothing compared to Sticky Vicky.
Yeah,
Would
exactly.
you rather do Sticky Vicky's job or be dance in the Bolshoi and be like the leading star in the Bolshoi, but knowing that it can turn.
Sticky Vicky, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd rather.
I think it's more fun.
All right. Well, on that charming note, thanks a lot for listening. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas,
Erica, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Loved
thank
that.
you. Yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.